What's this?
I'm entering panel.
And we're waiting on Seb. So I just said, Seb has to leave at 3. He's like a hard stop. But I was just saying that if I need to just leave, you guys can continue on so you get there in 40 But yeah, you guys can keep going.
walking virtually right now?
Yeah.
No. When I was on my immediate team, I was just wondering why he came up. But I guess he's got our live stream stuff. Yeah.
You guys are doing live stream. Why did you guys here?
All the time, yeah. We're hosting this live stream
Yes.
on our
Alright, we are back. We just had a short break so that we can get back on schedule. I just want to really quickly introduce my very good friend, Bailey Reutzel. She's here as a guest moderator for this particular session. She is a crypto OG. We were just chatting last night about, like, what was it, 2012? 2012, she bought her first Bitcoin. And she is now in the Web3 space as well. She's also organizing events around the scene that you have probably heard of. AxiCon in Barcelona. Can't wait, I will be there. You guys going? Yes, can't wait. So I'm gonna hand it over to her now. She's gonna be leading this panel. Thank you so much.
Of course.
For being here.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And Seb might need to leave halfway through, but that's okay. You guys are gonna keep chatting.
We have all the fun for you.
Enjoy.
Amazing. Well, I don't need to introduce myself because Lee did such a great job, but I will introduce the panelists for you all. We have Renz Chong, the CEO of Breeder DAO. Breeder DAO is an asset production factory for guilds. I took that right from your bio.
Yep.
So we'll talk about what that actually means here in a bit. We have Colin Goltra, the global COO of YGG. Yield Guild Games, also hard for me to say. That's a decentralized P2E gaming guild linking players to the assets they need to play. We have Nikita. I'm gonna screw it up. So it's just Nikita. He's a Forbes GameFi writer, fellow journalist here, so nice to have you. And then we have Seb. Seb is the co-founder and COO of Sandbox, and also the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance. So amazing, glad to have you guys here. I thought we were gonna have an audience like here in front of us. So my intro is all about like, okay, do we know these games that I'm gonna say, like old school games? But I think how I'm gonna start now.
The four of us, you could do a class.
Yeah,
We're like Zelda!
Yeah, basically that's what I wanted to do. But I think we're gonna start just to like, get some fun in here, talking about your favorite game and whether you think, in the future that game will look like a crypto game, right? So my favorite game that I want, please devs do something, is Little Big Planet, the little sock puppet 2D scroller. That's what I want on crypto. So what do you want on crypto?
Yeah, I'm a professional basketball player, meaning that I'm a huge fan of NBA 2K. Actually, I do believe that they're moving a bit into this direction by having online game where you can actually interact with players. Like LeBron James can just randomly join you. Yeah, cool.
Okay, Colin.
I like big open world adventure games and I like RPGs. So I think those will definitely make the move into play to earn. I grew up on like Legend of Zelda, so
Nice.
Jokes aside, I really do like that game. All the way through, I think my last really big gaming, like that addiction thing was like Skyrim, when I was in college and you just got shut in and like, so yeah, there's definitely a lineage there. I think those ones will make, a really good move into the play to earn space.
Okay.
Right, mine is, I'm actually torn between like Counter-Strike FPS or like, Fire Emblem tactical based RPG. So pretty sure that there already are a lot of like games like doing FPS at least on the blockchain, and that's one of the OGs, right? So it's fairly easy because like you have all these guns and you have all these like skins for the guns. Turning those into NFTs is actually pretty no-brainer, right? So yeah, and in terms of like tactical RPG, there's like a lot of like gacha games already, and people spend a ton of money on that. So pretty no-brainer as well to turn those into NFTs that can be useful in the future. Yeah.
All right, Seb.
I've been playing video games since Super Nintendo. I guess I played pretty much everything from Mario, platformers, Command and Conquer, strategy game, Age of Empire, Counter-Strike, Final Fantasy. I guess I'm lucky because I'm running a decentralized gaming virtual world, and the community makes a new kind of game that like now the kids and adults are enjoying. So my job could be just playing game all day long and inspiring creators.
Right.
Not exactly like that, but
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that in the moment.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, just wanted to make sure you guys are actually gamers before we carry on. So thank you for having some names ready. I want to set the stage for Web3 gaming, right? Just to contextualize a little bit more. I figured you're more cued into this than I am since you're Web3 focused at Forbes. Maybe you could just take us through like, what does the space look like? TLDR, not huge amounts.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we're extremely early. Like even those open spaces that exist there, play to earn, move to earn, whatsoever, it's extremely early. Majority of them are unsustainable, and I guess it's nothing new to all of you. Majority of those projects are going to zero due to two main factors. First of all, they're making the projects just to make money, not actually to make it fun, not actually to have some in-game experience, something that, for example, Sandbox is doing, is cooperating with different projects. The Decentraland is doing, having some in-game experience, so that people can move from real life to actually this metaverse, Web3, whatsoever, whatever you call it. And factor number two, what I don't really like, at this point of view, there is no interoperability. at this point of view. So basically, you cannot go, what you were just discussing, buying guns at Counter-Strike. It's fun. You spend a lot of time, a lot of money actually playing Fortnite in the same way. But you need to have this way to connect with different platforms, different games. That's why I'm saying that we're extremely early. But I do believe that there is a huge potential, first of all, because people from the 20 years ago, they were looking for this virtual communication. Nowadays, every second grandma has YouTube on her phone to watch some series, because why would she wait till 8 a.m. or p.m.? She can watch it like this. Communication with people, in-game experience, it all works. And I do believe that this is a way for us to move forward. And that's why I'm extremely optimistic about the space, even though we're early and I'm here to wait this 10, 15, 20 years. And the best thing is actually to witness right now, to build right now, to participate right now. Even if you're not a coder, I'm not one, but connecting with all these people, getting some feedback, actually coming up with my own theses and seeing if they're gonna actually be real in 10 years from now. That's a beautiful space and time to be in.
Yeah, that was really helpful to set the scene a little bit. There are several things I'm going to touch on there. The one that I want to start out with, though, is sort of, okay, so if you turn your guns, your bullets, your skins into NFTs, and then also you want those to be interoperable between other games. One of my favorite things that Philip Rosedale, the creator of Second Life, said on a podcast was just like, you know, the interoperability thing is a bit hard to imagine for him. I mean, some games could do it, but if you take your first-person shooter or Grand Theft Auto car into Among Us and mow down all the characters, then like, you know, the Among Us players are going to be they're not going to like that very much. And so interoperability only works so far. And so I guess I'm interested to hear like what y'all think in terms of this like porting guns or porting characters over to different platforms. Yeah, please take it.
Yeah, I'd love to hear Renz's take on this as well. But I actually like the idea that it doesn't have to be a specific item; it can be a status, right?
Okay.
And so I like the idea that it's something that manifests as one thing in one digital world and something else in another, but they're kind of spiritually equivalent to one another, right? And so interoperability doesn't have to be a literal, you know, genre bending thing that makes it into the same game in each thing. It can actually be a badge, a status, some sort of like, you know, some sort of broader like appearance or what have you that that kind of manifests in a different way that's native to that game. Whereas, you know, it's still something you kind of own that you know becomes this metagame item, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so yeah, I agree. Like you don't want your games ruined by just, you know, everything becoming the same game and converging on everyone using game. You know, this maybe one game like that would be really cool, but you know, I think it would ruin a lot of these like, you know, very curated digital experiences if you had, you know, just true interoperability. But something that, you know, an NFT can express in, you know, in different ways in different worlds. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Renz,
I do agree with Colin for sure. Right. People seem to think that, you know, if we're talking about interoperability, it has to have the same like function like within all the games. But if it doesn't make sense, like what you said, right, bring a car in Among Us, right? It doesn't have to be like a car that's usable by any character, right? It could be as simple as like a display. And that could be like, you know, the way for us to put it like in one game into another, right? So there are things that doesn't make sense for sure, that we don't have to force our way into. But that option of like having or making assets interoperable, and that's the beauty of blockchain, right? You can choose to, you know, create something and then put that in a game, even just as a cosmetic. And that would mean a lot to people because then it would show like, you know, they're still a fan of that, for example, like that asset or that item. And I guess like, you know, it makes like the difference in terms of having that personal touch on like all of these assets, because you get a sense of like feeling more attached to the asset, which ultimately, you know, right now what's happening is that even though you say that, or people say that we own our assets, there's still that detachment because we haven't seen like how we can really bring these things into, you know, some of the games that we move into. Right now, people seem to think that, you know, if I love this game and I buy items for these games, then it gets stuck there, right? It doesn't outlive like the creators, or it doesn't outlive the game itself. And so, having that ability to port it over to something else in the future is something that's really valuable for me as like, a purchaser of like in-game assets and like as a gamer.
Yeah, actually not to be limited.
Right. Sebastian, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I really like the fact that you're considering interoperability not just the fact of representing the same asset in the same way across the world, but also like thinking about reputation. The first thing we care about as player usually is your main characters, the avatar. So that's the entry point towards interoperability that we've chosen at Sandbox, like turning any external NFT, whether it's a static image, into a playable avatar, doing that for as many collections as possible, the most popular in the Web3 community. It adds, first of all, this adds sense of attachment, because then it's no longer just a collectible that I can trade with other like cards or sell, but it's me, it's my identity. I don't want to sell my identity, because I'm going to use it, I'm going to recognize it as myself. So it has this personal attachment reinforcement, but also an impact on the financial side, because if you look at the broader spectrum of like digital asset where there's less and less seller and a higher demand on the market, has an effect on the price of those goods. But we can go further in the sense of reputations. If I use my identity across virtual world, I accumulate like skills, virtual good, progression. I want to use my reputation as well to potentially unlock other experiences across other world, or like keep my status and experience rather than starting from scratch. So all the time I'm going to devote in one game or another, it can be accumulated rather than like zero each time that I have to start over. And all of that is, I think it's the ground basis for establishing that whole digital economy that multiple decentralized applications can contribute to building. And that is now possible thanks to, by using a technology where, and having actors into an ecosystem which do not just want to log their user in and prevent them to go into other. So we mutually benefit from that value.
Yeah.
Acquiring users that are skilled at a high level, it's quite expensive when you think in terms of user acquisition strategy, into mobile free-to-play game, etc. But then suddenly, you give them a status, a representation, benefits in game, in your game, like how much are you ready to pay for that as a developer? And now you no longer need to pay for that. You just need to be creative and offer something of value, from the simple representation to an avatar or much more. And more recently, actually yesterday, Sunday, we have announced the launch of the OMA Free, which is the Open Metaverse Alliance Free, which is a grouping of many of the actors in the Web3 decentralized space. Decentraland, Appleland, Animal Cat brand. There is Alien World, there is a Sandbox, obviously, Crypto Voxels, etc. To try to establish a framework and standards around like how we're going to work towards interoperability. We will also join the Metaverse Alliance Forum that was announced a couple of weeks before, but was largely ignoring the Web3 actors in the space. So there was a lot of big names, Microsoft, Adobe, Fortnite, Roblox, and so on, but no need from the Web3 space. And I think we can all together tackle that topic, taking into consideration all the aspects of it.
Yeah. In terms of what you're seeing, the makeup of who these players are some of these traditional gamers that are now in Sandbox?
So Sandbox is quite unique in a sense, like, I believe we're building a new form of entertainment. We put a lot of effort to turn players into creators, and to turn anyone into a creator, meaning like a lot of the Sandbox audience, they were not the traditional hardcore gamers. They might have not consumed or lived through the console or gaming area, as we just spoke before. And yet now they've been empowered, they've created something, they have an audience, they have fans, they start earning a revenue from the selling. Some of them, they became entrepreneurs and they have large companies, a medium-sized company of 10, 20, 40, 80 people. Recently, the first Builder Studio was acquired, 100 people company has been acquired by Admix, was Landvault, a builder in the US. So it's moving on, and it's because we're bringing a mix of fans from brands, new people who feel like now I can learn those skills, I can do something new, which I never had special training or even never thought I could do. Empowering all those people is opening new opportunities, and that's what excites us a lot. Like, we want to make the space more creative and empower many more people for that.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys as well about audience, because I think, every other day, like 6 months ago, is like Web3 gaming is going to change gaming forever and all the time. And then the next article was like traditional gamers hate NFTs and Web3. And that, that's a real dichotomy. You have to get some of these traditional players to port over at some point, because the crypto audience users are still pretty small. And so I guess the question is just, how do we start to bridge that gap between those traditional gamers who sort of look at the space and, to be fair, are skeptical because a lot of this will go to zero or feels like a money grab. So yeah, if you want to start, go ahead.
Yeah, I do believe it's not only about the gaming industry itself, it's all about Web3. It's changing so quick that some things that were relevant a couple of weeks ago, they're not anymore. And I do believe that is the biggest thing that traditional gamers, developers are a bit afraid. I do believe that the best things that we can actually do today to ensure that people stay in the games, if you develop your loyal community, you grow with them, is to make fun. Make fun through the game. I'm not a big believer going long term about do something to earn, but I'm more believer of do something and earn and have fun and connect, etc., etc., etc. I do believe that if we're talking about decentralized games, open spaces, it should be first of all fun for people to have some resemblance of their physical world. For example, KPMG opened 2 weeks ago their office hub in Decentraland. That is one of these first ways for people to actually, even though it's not a game, but still to have this in-game experience connecting with their managers, connecting with clients. And I do believe it's fun because you can do it from the comfort of your couch. You need only one computer, and people want to check it out. 20 years ago, if you would tell someone that you will be sitting 10, 15 hours per day in front of your screen, people would say that you're cool. But I mean, that is actually what we're doing every day, even while talking, every single day. The same goes here. Metaverse, like Web3 gaming, it should not be limited to VR sets, to AR or whatsoever. All of those will have some part in the ecosystem, but the main thing is to be built for people, by people. And adding to interoperability, what we just talked about, I do believe that people often forget about the thing of features. It's not only about assets that you're moving from one game to another, but also features. Me, and I'm telling it from the user's standpoint, I would actually love to have some of the game features, some trading features, some communication features in different games. And so far, the only way for me to do so is to connect developers. Of course, there are some Web3 companies like games where there are DAOs, powered by DAOs, and you can actually vote, but still it's not that sustainable. The best way would be to actually have some kind of open code, or to have some easy to use app platform so that people can do it from the comfort of their phone to change, to add these features. We're still extremely early in that, but I do believe that the moment we reach this state, where actually people are having fun, because it's just like physical world. They can choose where to be. It's not annoying, it's not boring, it's not bad. That's when Web3 gaming gonna reach it actual level.
I do think it's funny so I had this conversation at Consensus as well. I moderated a panel about Web3. And it's like, the answer is we have to make these games fun to get more people to play them. And it's like, well, crypto isn't about fun, my friend. Crypto is about making money and 100xing your tokens or your NFTs. So it's just, there is sort of a dichotomy in this space as well with like what, it's not about 100xing, but that's why a lot of people are here, which makes some of those communities feel pretty aggressive to somebody coming in.
There's a sense that the grind makes it feel more real.
Right.
Because you're grinding for assets, and we've tried at YGG, we've tried to zag a little bit, and like it started as play to earn, and everyone's like, okay, let's all call it play and earn. And we're like, screw that, we're gonna stay play to earn. Okay. We made the documentary, there's a documentary already, like we've built there's an ecosystem around it. And look, we're very pro fun, right? There is an element in which we can onboard huge swaths of people to Web3 that were not even traditionally gamers, and they start by you doing play to earn games. Hopefully they're very fun. They're getting better over time, but actually, like the path of starting in sort of these grinds teaches you how to use DeFi products and teaches you how to self-custody, and they teach you like it actually onboards you to it takes you from gaming, which is actually becoming a 21st century skill, to a whole suite of 21st century skills that are super valuable, you know, in the metaverse, right? Like but yeah, I think there is an element in which that grind makes it very, you know, it makes the struggle feel real. Like it's like, you know, it has that stake. It's like it's like proof of work. It's like it's proof of work with people, right? That grind has a value, and of course, I think there's more and more developers in the space now, traditional gaming people, but there's an opportunity to just have a bunch of people that weren't even gamers before. It's not like you just have to convert the existing thing, and so it's a bit of both. Like certainly, like
absolutely,
and also,
Did you want to?
If you look typically at the history of gaming, like how did we move to 2.5 billion gamer? It's essentially every step there's been an innovation that brought a new category of players. Like if I look at, let's take maybe console handle with Nintendo 3DS, they introduced touchscreen, and then the Switch or the Wii U before that, it brought in like the younger and the elder into gaming for more casual game, and then smartphones opened like hyper casual, and then bam, 2 billion gamer more on top of that. So in a way, I think it's also about the innovation around the experience, the way of interactions, creating this new format of entertainment. Sandbox is not just pure games, it's a mix of like education, of art galleries, of virtual concerts, of virtual shows, of socialization, that in my opinion is more appealing because it's less core, it's less focused into one gender specific, which might be focusing too much to people, and it's widening the perspective, both geographically in terms of like where people are in the world, in the culture, the fact they interact and they see new content. I'm also quite interested into like the fact that Web3 through NFTs has opened true digital ownership of your asset. It means that people can have fun in different ways as they interact with their assets. Some people just have fun like selling and buying, like some have fun flipping houses, flipping cars, flipping cards, flipping game items. That's a way to have fun. Quite interestingly is then you have games where you have like different audience and population that have not necessarily all the same interest toward like the game that collude into this game. You want to have a healthy distribution. If you have heavily skewed toward like, oh, we have 10% players and 90% more financial interested people into the game, it's not necessarily going to be balanced enough to guarantee a sustainable economy in the game. And that's where the role of the game creator is evolving. Like rather than managing like closed world economy, now we have to manage economies in communities with different kind of audience where we have to think like how does value go from one to another to develop circular economies into those.
Did you want to add like something to that? Because you know what Sebastien said about like play to earn being a specific category, I actually think that is true, and it actually targets a specific profile or cohort of users. But that's not to say that, you know, these are the guys that are going to dominate this entire like blockchain gaming space, right? Because you know, you have games like Genshin Impact, for example, where people actually grind and play accounts in order to just sell it to other people. So this play to earn thing is not a concept that was just propagated by blockchain gaming. And in fact, I think it was actually necessary to show one of the use cases of like crypto, which is allowing you to own your assets, hence allowing you to actually earn from it. So I think it's a cohort of users, and it's a good cohort of users because income has always been a strong motivator. But like in the future, if we want to target like other segments, then we want to have to explore like other motivators, right? You said play and earn earlier, right? Like how do we actually get to own our asset, but at the same time like have a fun game, right? So that one would be more like the AAA games, for example, or like, you know, more graphic intensive games. So it's going to be like interesting on how we can develop this. But I really feel like play to earn was a necessary step to show people that there's actually value in what we're doing, and like blockchain is actually providing something that used to be wasn't even I wouldn't say like made possible, but wasn't made like convenient for people, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's
people would sell accounts. Right now, you can just simply sell the assets, right? So yeah, I think it was a necessary step, and I think like a specific cohort.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really fair point. This was already happening in traditional gaming in terms of like, farming assets and then reselling them, which sometimes makes the game not fun to play for the rest of us, but we're working it out. You had touched on how the narrative is shifting sort of from play to earn to now play and earn. So we're just changing this one little word.
Yeah.
I guess like in my mind, that doesn't actually mean much, just changing to and. I guess I'd like y'all's takes, like if you think that narrative is enough of a shift or if we should just like stay the course.
Semantic.
Yeah, right. It feels very
it's all
only the people in one industry will care about how it's being told.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, users, they don't read the package label and see a free to play.
These are all just we just package. These are all just tags that we use to kind of tag parts of the movement. I think it's all like we're building cool games, we're building groups of people, like we're building stuff in crypto, like sometimes I just call it all like the internet. It's like it's really like it's like
you can call
we
it
live there
too.
Right.
Trade trap or whatsoever. Just playing around with the words.
Right.
What I do actually believe, what shows that there is this part of and that's what Sab just mentioned 5 minutes ago about building on the previous layers. Like not only have this game experience, not only have like do something and earn, but actually have different ways to earn. Actually have different ways to have fun, as you mentioned. For some people it's flipping. For some people I know that, for example, World of Women, they're building their own academy in Sandbox to educate people. People can educate there for free. Maybe later on they can earn something from that. Some like Snoop Dogg, Stevie Aoki, like Ariana Grande, they're all also moving into this kind of game land to have some concerts, to have some Q&As, to interact with people, and also, yes, they can earn, they can just have fun. So I do believe it's actually more about executing and building for people, like bringing all these features from different games. Some people want to earn, some people want to play some poker online with VR sets, some people want to just connect, have some fun. So it's about that actually.
Yeah, so let's move into sustainability as well. This is sort of what I'm trying to get at, right? Like play to earn, then made, it at least made some people think, okay, I'm always going to earn, right? Maybe my asset will never go down. And obviously we've seen that it can go very far down, almost to zero. And a lot of people are left sort of, holding that bag. I think there is some more education that needs to happen there. But I guess talk to me about what is going to make a sustainable game? How do we pivot? Maybe like the Axie model, right? Which we see is kind of like they're trying to pivot as well. What does a sustainable game look like in the future of Web3? And whoever wants to take that first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point around the two emphasizes the financial aspect maybe more than it should, right? I think over time, games that have kind of persistent communities, right, will kind of have assets that remain illiquid, and then the token part kind of becomes secondary. As sustainable games just. I think sustainable games will come with just kind of like a broader exposure to broader communities and broader sets of players, right? That actually will smoothen out the curve, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Still very early in the space. Like I don't know that we've fully solved the sustainability thing.
Yeah, we surely haven't.
We haven't done that in pure crypto either. Right? We haven't. We haven't done it in traditional markets and stuff. It adds an inevitable exposing assets on the blockchain adds an inevitable market component, and we live in a world where most markets are like market correlations are like converging on one another, and so there is some point of this, which is there are natural market cycles, and if you create liquid markets for things, they'll start to trade like a lot of other assets in the world. And so I think community focus, people building, people with kind of experience in traditional gaming, I think these are all things that will ultimately build the sustainable game. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
I
guys
think
want to add
like
to that?
the word sustainability right now is a bit vague for me. Like,
That's
does that
fair.
mean, for example, like, we want to retain value within the game, or does it mean like, anyone who gets to play can actually earn, right? Which we've seen that's not like sustainable at all.
Right.
So I think like if we're talking about like value retention within games, then there's a lot of things that we can think about, right? Colin mentioned, right, token being secondary, NFTs being the primary one that people actually sell. But it's also a mindset, right? Are you looking to play a game to really earn off of it, or do you really just want to play or to learn about it, right? So there's a bunch of things that we haven't really drilled down on how we actually define like a blockchain game and what we want to get like out of it. But it also comes from like onboarding a lot more users than the initial cohort of like people looking to just earn from it, right? Which is like the general sentiment across like crypto and not just like GameFi. Because a lot of people don't really understand like what they're doing here. Just a promise of returns, right? 1000x, 10,000x, right? So people are in it for the profits, but not for the technology. So until people really understand like what we're doing here and what the applications are across the specific like industries that we're looking at, then I think that's the only way that we'll be able to achieve sustainability across like all aspects.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, just on your comment about sustainability being vague, like a lot of things in crypto are vague, right? Like play to earn versus play and earn. Very vague. What does that mean? Is there a difference? Community is another word that gets thrown around all the time. Like we're trying to build the best community. And then it's like, well, what does community mean here?
Exactly.
So yeah, Sebastien, I don't know if you wanted to add, and I'll give you a chance to add as well in terms of sustainability.
I think like it's very hard now that games have real economies with financial assets that can be traded or markets attached to it. It was already a hard job to be a good game designer or game economy designer. I think now we're talking like you have to be on a real world finance guide for this concept. First of all, like any game that has an economy where it's only dependent on the company itself or the player themselves, like it's a zero-sum game. So that's not healthy, not sustainable. We need to think of a circular economy where value will be injected into the system from outside of the core users. So whether it's sponsors for leagues like in esports or people who acquire land and are going to pay builder into the ecosystem, etc. And then it circulates inside. I also think like there's different ways to appreciate value. Value doesn't need to hold forever on an asset because like experience and value can also be related in a way. Like when I go in holidays, I pay for my trip, my value is temporary. It cannot hold forever into whatever represents my holiday, except maybe the memory I get from it. When you picture that in your head and you try to apply it into games, say, okay, I have fun for a certain amount of time, some asset could be worthwhile, maybe I can earn back a little bit, it's already better than earning nothing at all like we are in the industry. It's not, so there's really different ways to think of it, not necessarily like that of course, but I think it's already a great step forward that we have been able to advance the industry and overall ecosystem through our opening those possibilities.
Yeah, that's right. And did you want to?
Sorry, Sebastien raises a great point, which is valuing experience, right? And so I think we talk a lot about the assets persisting, right? And there's actually an extent to which maybe playability is like there's some of the assets are consumptive and like you value, it's almost an option that you choose, you still control it, you still choose when it's exercised in that sense, right? But there's actually a thing which is like it's a one-use thing or it's an n number of usages, right? And so like there's an extent to which actually maybe there needs to be some parts of the game that are ephemeral. There's sinks, there's consumptive, there's right, like, and like there's, I think we're very new, our space is very in its nascency as it relates to exposing game assets to gigantic open markets. But then as part of that, we're also very new in terms of how tokens get designed, how things get used in game and these sorts of things. And so I'm sure Sebastien's team and many others are just right at the forefront of how a lot of that gets designed, right? The game designer kind of becomes a central banker, right?
Yeah, right. Well, so I had, long time ago read an article about traditional games bringing on economists to help them build out their game economies, basically. Do you have an economist on your staff? Are you guys seeing that there's economists on the staffs of these crypto games?
Well, I think it's definitely wisely recommended now to have economy and specialties. I think video games are not being designed with teams of literally dozens to hundreds of people, if not thousands, which means ultra specialization into certain roles.
Right.
And economy design is indeed it's a job.
Yeah.
We didn't invent it, didn't start with crypto, because we want to think how the balancing of the difficulty of the game, the price of the virtual item now being NFTs, are going to affect the gameplay, your loot, your grind, the time you're going to spend, and then potentially the decision you're going to make into a player. And that's part of the fun. So some people enjoy doing that math as well, trying to reverse engineering what the other guy creating the game did and hype his way through it, find the leaks in the strategy. Games are a whole economic system on their own.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it didn't used to be termed as economist because it's built within the games. And previously you don't have all of these tokens, right? But there definitely are people who are already doing the game designs, and they are the more traditional economists, I would say.
A key difference though is in traditional gaming, pre-Web3, certainly there were people selling accounts and stuff, but the inflows and outflows of these games, of these economies it was much more of a closed loop system. Whereas when suddenly the back end is exposed to, it's only a few steps down from just absolute fiat chaos. I mean, the complexity of that design needs to be, it's like a staggering problem. It's like a staggering complexity problem.
I mean, to partially summarize what my colleagues just mentioned, we need this education. Do you all agree? And I'm talking not only about education for the users, as an in-game, for a game, how not to lose money, how to actually onboard yourself, but education for those traditional businesses who are looking at us like some crazy freaks who are developing a new internet, but why do we need it? Actually, education for those economists, financial specialists who will be later on joining, because I do believe that for now, games, they are mainly about designers, mainly about developers, maybe a couple other positions who are actually developing it, but aspects like the economics of the game, not that many teams, not that many big companies, and I'm even talking about smaller companies, like a team of 5-10 people they're talking about, because every second NFT project, one of the utility on their roadmap or whatsoever that they promise is some kind of game. And I don't think that we need some, sorry for my language, shitty game, which you can actually get on your phone 10 years ago, like some pixel game or whatsoever. It might be fun. We don't need thousands of those. We need some legit games, something that people, as we discussed before, have fun. And for them to actually know what kind of game to create, they need to educate themselves on what the user actually needs, what will be the future of the space, how to add some economy to it, how to add some financial aspect to it, some fun aspect, etc. And only when it happens, only when we start educating traditional businesses through this game, by sharing some thoughts, reports, ideas of this big player, like Vitalik, for example, he's sharing some of his thoughts about soul-bound token and stuff like that. Yeah, it's in a complete language, not everyone understands, but he's kinda moving in this direction. These traditional businesses will see and they will start joining the space, and that's how this mass adoption happens. And that is how, as you mentioned, it's not just for gamers, hard gamers, but it's for a broader audience, for people who will find one or two features that they are interested in, and they will join the game, whether it's actually to earn or have some other fun or whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, if you can create a piece of education that helps me not lose money in crypto, I would love that. So please do that. Somebody do that for me because I am losing money. Sebastien, do you have to go?
I have to, yes.
Yeah, please. I wanted to give you a way to.
Is so good. I didn't want to.
I wanted to make sure I gave you the out if you need it. I'm actually going to check the time to
Keep
go.
it on going.
Yes.
Now you said a bunch of things in my back if you want.
Amazing. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, bye, Sebastien. I was gonna wrap up with one last question.
You were trying to
Okay, so we're still on, right? We're still like, okay, I'm gonna ask one last question. We are like past time though, so just keep that in mind. But now what was the question I was gonna ask? That whole thing. Oh, yeah. What games are going to make it? What companies that you see right now in Web3 gaming that is like GMI, they're good to go? I will start with you.
That's a very hard question.
You don't want to offend anyone at the same time. You don't want to.
This is not
NFA?
Yeah. This is not an exhaustive list, but like, the top one, maybe let's reframe the question. Which game are you like most excited about? Either to play because you think they've got the economics right, like.
I think Guild of Guardians is interesting. I mean, I wouldn't say like they're gonna GMI, right?
Okay.
It's more like, they're making a game that's actually, or that resembles something that I personally love playing. And with the recent success of Diablo Immortal, I kind of see it like also going through the same like path, just with the gameplay, for example, and it adds a different flavor. And I also say that, what Axie Infinity is doing in terms of like adding like different components of gameplays to its ecosystem, that's also a thing that I'm definitely excited to look at. So I'm not saying that these games are definitely gonna make it, but like the step that we're making towards making these like efforts in terms of like innovation and development is actually pretty interesting for me. Because like one of the things that I really enjoy about crypto is that people can actually build on top of it, and that it cannot outlive its original creator. So if Axie Infinity, the original game, like say it's dying, right? At least like, all these other like games that was born out of it, right? Can be more successful than the original one. And that's the beauty of it, right? You can build on top of it, you can like make, or you can make use of the original assets that has been bought by a lot of people. So yeah, that's for me.
That's a great answer. Yeah, killed it. Colin.
I do like the zag of still supporting Axie. Like
I also love that.
I mean, it's like at all times they have like they've executed and delivered many times.
Yep.
Their track record there is actually quite good. I think they're still in their very early phases of just rolling out all these different features and gameplay modes, and I don't know. I'd be very excited to see what they look like 3 to 5 years from now.
Definitely.
I think they'll have figured out a lot of additional pieces. I guess without shilling our own bags too hard, like the YGG is just in like 50 games.
Yeah, right.
And we have
so all 50 of those.
Yeah. So go to the YGG portfolio. No. But look, we do have the staggering problem of like, just like a good problem to have, but like we are trying to break down gameplay per game and figure out how best to plug our community into some of the assets we've acquired there and stuff. For me, I've been intrigued by the kind of the emergent gameplay behavior in Civitas. I think that's an interesting one. I think Crypto Unicorns is one that our community's been very excited about. I think that's kind of a very proven traditional gameplay model that's worked in other formats. Yeah. I know Renz's team is also very excited about it. And so we've got a bunch that I think we're super excited about. My Pet Hooligans is another one that I think our team spends a lot of time thinking about. So I think there's a good portfolio there. For the YGG, there's a bunch of companies. We love all our children equally. But those are a few that we'll get a shout out for.
Yeah, actually, I'm a huge fan of in-game experience on some open platforms, as we already discussed, like some worlds. Like I absolutely love and mentioned a couple of those biggest projects, not game projects like Central and Sandbox, when actually people build the game there. But talking about games, most probably I'm gonna go with a niche one called Monkey League. Okay. I don't know if anyone of you know, it's Solana based. And actually the reason why I love them, they have all the features we discussed today. They have like staking, breeding, in-game tournaments. It's actually logical football game where you actually need to sing, so it requires some time for you. They have biggest partnerships already, even though they didn't launch the partnerships of these football players, football clubs. But one thing that a lot of teams are missing, they have a perfect communication. And communication not only in real life events, actually Paris Blockchain Summit 3 months ago here back in Paris, that's where I met the team. And we spent like a couple of hours, even though I was just general user talking about some ideas and they were asking for feedback. And I actually see that they were taking notes of what can be changed. They're also having spaces on YouTube. Every week they have a space with one of the team members, a designer, developer, having harsh Q&A like for 19 minutes. They're having spaces in Twitter. So they're actually getting this feedback of people to implement, to change it. And they're also educating people, giving some insights. Actually, I came 10 years ago from this company, there are the scratches that we're implementing here, they're explaining it. So I do believe that the more transparent, more user-friendly you can be, more people trust you because you don't want to lose your money. You want to have some sustainability there as well. That's how it goes.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to wrap up. We're out of time, but thank you. That was great. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.